Hey guys, Andrew here with Great Lakes Sprouts Media. Today we're going to be showing you how to safely and efficiently cut down a tree. There's a lot of different methods out there. There's 100 different ways to bake a pie. With experience and time, you'll figure out which method works for you. There are other tools and things we'll mention in the video, but we're going to cut down the smaller tree here. I'm going to show you the technique I use that's worked for me effectively. Come on guys, let's go do this. All right guys, we're at a customer's house here. They got this tree. Some branches have been falling down, specifically this one here. You can see there's an open wound here. This tree is probably gonna go. It's not gonna be able to heal itself. There's a lot of moisture and water going in there. It's gonna decay. There's really no way of saving this thing. If you look up, there's a lot of decay. Branches are already dead. This thing's gotta come down. It's not a huge tree, but it's a good one to start with. I always recommend when you're starting off, always start with something small and easy. Don't go anything crazy. You can even use a hand pruning saw to practice the technique before using a chainsaw. But we're gonna cut this one down here. We're gonna put our notch right over here, and we're gonna do a back cut. We'll have a hinge. I'll show you guys what the hinge is and why it's important. This tree's weight is mostly leaning towards that way. We're gonna go down this driveway. Make sure if it's a really big tree, you're not gonna crack someone's driveway. And make sure everything's clean around you. Make sure no one's around you either when you're cutting. Make sure you got safety glasses, gloves, your chainsaw's working properly. We want to use chaps as well, especially if we're chainsawing for a while. We're going to take this one down. Let's do it. So here, guys, I kind of drew it out with a spray paint. We're going to do our notch going like this and that. We first do our notch. We want to make sure it's clean. Make sure it's perfectly even inside. I'll show you guys once I cut it. And then we're going to do a back cut. We can go on a slight angle if we want, depending on the situation. We go about an inch or so above. And then when we cut it, you're going to see a hinge. The hinge is what controls the drop of the tree. Without that hinge, the tree can slip out and go in any direction. Some trees are hollow inside. You got to be careful because it could split and kill you. So just make sure this tree isn't dangerous or anything inside isn't decaying too bad. But yeah, we're going to do a cut like this. You can also do a flat cut on an angle. There's different options or the opposite. But this way, we're going to cut down this way and cut that way, make a perfect notch. All right, we got our chainsaw here, guys. I'm gonna show you a little bit of maintenance on it too later. We took this off. We wanna clean our chainsaw after every use. Reason being is sawdust and things can get stuck inside of the oil distributor, and then we're not getting oil in our chain. We're gonna burn our chain out real quick. We wanna make sure our rail is cleaned. There's no mushrooming on the rail. We would file that off. Every so often, flip your bar over too. And our bar should be coming off the rail almost, not super tight, but then we've got our breaker here. This is what allows the chain to move freely. Our breaker stops it, so when we're chainsawing to the right, you see if you get kickback, it's gonna come up. Say the chain's running, and if it does get kickback, it'll at least come up and then stop the chain and go to the right. Don't ever stand in front of your chainsaw, because boom, not gonna be good. But yeah, we have that. We'll talk a little bit more safety later, but this is your breaker bar. In between cuts, you should always get used to stopping your chain, doing what you need to do, move. You can put your chain back on. Just get used to that, because if you slip and fall, you might cut your hand off. But this is very important. Older chainsaws don't have this. It's a really good safety feature. But yeah, make sure everything's tight on here. We want to make sure our air filter is clean. Take that off, remove it, buy a couple of them. If you're unsure, you can always take it up to a local store. They do maintenance on them. Make sure your chain's sharpened. You'll know if your chain is not sharp when you're cutting your tree. You'll get a bunch of dust coming out. You should be getting flakes coming out. If the chain's sharp, you got flakes, not dust. All right, guys, let's cut this thing. Put our carb on, safety on. Over on the other side. All right, so come on here. You can see it's not too bad, but we want to make sure this is more clean. I'm just going to cut a little bit more off of here. Since it's not a huge tree, we want to make sure this is nice and clean. It's going to control our drop here. Like I said, our back cut, we don't want to go right even with this. We go a little bit above. So when we cut here, we'll go in. This hinge will be attached. It'll control the drop of the tree. Like I said, most of the weight's going this way anyways, so we're going to drop it that way. All right, let's do the back cut. So you can see here we had that hinge. I could have went up a little bit higher, but you can see how it's kind of like ripped. That's what controls the fall of the tree. But yeah, there's a lot of different techniques and ways to do it. Like I said, you can cut this way, that way, flat, going up or reverse. Depending on the situation, it's all physics. You look at the tree and we decide, what's the best method here. If you're ever unsure, always hire an arborist or someone who knows what they're doing. I learned a lot of the stuff that I know from working at the metro parks with these professional arborists. They taught me a little bit here and there. I'm still learning every time I cut. It's still a little bit nerve-wracking, but I love chainsawing. It's like meditation to me because it's you're in the moment, just like riding a motorcycle. You shouldn't be thinking about what grandma's cooking for dinner tonight. Be focused, know what's going on here right now. Be safe, see your surroundings. If you're ever unsure, like I said, talk to an expert. But we can also tie a rope to this. We can use wedges as well, or a come along. We'll show you some other videos in the future how to use a come along as well. But we got this cut down, and we're just gonna chop this up for the homeowner. So you can see how I'm using these logs underneath. When I'm cutting, what I'm doing is I'm not giving it tension. So when I cut here, the tension's coming off. So we're cutting down, it's gonna pinch the saw. So you just wanna make sure, they have other tools and things like that. We can also cut, and roll over and cut it again. It's another method. We'll show you guys with some bigger trees later, but this is a small little one, a good one to start with. Don't start with anything big. Make sure also when we're cutting that our blade does not hit the ground. Once that chain hits the ground and it's rocks, you're gonna dull your blade right away. That's why I never let anyone borrow my chainsaw. But yeah, make sure when you're cutting at the end, if you're starting to get to the end of the cut, just give it a little bit of gas. You don't need to go burr right through the ground because then you'll hit and miss, hit the ground. So if you see a lot of homeowner saws, they'll have this protector thing on the top here. So you got a homeowner saw, but that's the kickback zone. When we're cutting something, I'm gonna show you an example. You always wanna be aware of what's in front of it because if the chainsaw gets hit anywhere in this spot, it'll literally kick back like that. So when you're chainsawing, always take your time, make sure everything's going on We also want to look at tension. Is there any branches that are under tension? I know a guy, story, he was cutting. His tree was in tension. It actually flipped open, knocked his front teeth out. He had to go to the hospital. So always be aware of because the plant has its own memory, and the wood, if it falls down, it's under tension. Just be careful. And always beware of the kickback zone. So if I show you something here, if you always wonder what these teeth are, those teeth are meant to do exactly what I'm doing. You push them in and the chainsaw does the work. You shouldn't be forcing the chainsaw. Let it glide, your chain's sharp. Like I said, you get chips coming out, not dust. But yeah, these spikes down here, you push them in, glide the chainsaw, pull it out, push it in, glide the chainsaw. More important when you're working with bigger ones. We'll try it on that one too, but finish cutting this guy. So there you have it, guys. There's some tips and tricks on how to chainsaw. If you got any questions, comment below. Most importantly, please hit the subscribe and like button, guys. Thanks for watching.